Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Peah, Daf Chaf Beis in the Ozvada print. We're going to talk about two things that are really overlapping, but Halacha MiSinai and then Torah Shel Peah. Very fundamental Gemaras here that are really, really relevant on Amud Beis. So the Mishnah said that an incident happened for Shimon ben Mitzvah where he planted two varieties of wheat in a single field, and then Nachum Sofer said that I have a tradition from Mesha who received it from the prophets, from the oral law from Moshe MiSinai. And he quotes Halacha Moshe MiSinai. So Amar Rav Zera b'Shem Rav Yochanan. Rav Zera, the name of Rav Yochanan, the author of the Yerushalmi, main author of the Yerushalmi, says in Bas Halacha Talas Yadcha, if Halacha comes to you, ve'ein at yodea mativa, and you don't fully understand it. So al tafli genel davar achar. Don't just use your brains to try to explain it. No. Don't just try to use your logic and say, oh, this is probably what it means. No. Shari kama halachos dember Moshe MiSinai. It's a very fascinating statement. Many halachas were said to Moshe MiSinai. The Kulan Mishukaos Mishnah, and all of them have been incorporated in the Mishnah. So go find the Mishnah and you'll find it. And that's an example where this was passed down traditionally, and it's found in the Mishnah. So again, that's a very, very big yesod that any halacha Moshe MiSinai has not been forgotten. It's somewhere in a Mishnah, and you have to find the explanation, and the Mishnah will explain it. And the Mishnahs are very dense and not very elaborative, but it's there, and you have to find a tradition that explains how to understand what the Mishnah is even saying. But that's where it is. Now, let's talk about Torah Shel Peah. Rav Zera quotes a pasuk, Echtav lo rube toraso. Hashem says, I'll write the majority of your Torah. It's pasuk in Hosea Periches. So he says, wait a minute, is most of the Torah written down? No. Merubin heina dvarim hanidrashem min aksav. The laws that come out of the ksav, that come out of the drashas, are extremely lengthy. Dvarim hanidrashem min apeh, even more than the laws based on oral tradition. So the Rambam, for example, in his introduction to Mishnayos, so he says there are three categories of laws from divine origin. One is the laws known through the oral tradition and the psukim, the drashas. The second is the laws known only through the psukim themselves. And three is the laws known only through oral tradition. So the Gemara seems to understand here that this pasuk is talking about the written law. It includes all laws that we learn from the drashas, whether or not they're known from the oral tradition. But if they were only known through oral tradition above, they're not. Those are part of the oral law. So, but then the Gemara says, no, it's not what it means. Now listen to this, it's important. Bikini, is it really true the majority of Torah is written down? It's not. Elikini, rather the proper, the keen means yes. The proper thing is like this. Chavivin hein devar manadrashim minapeh. The oral law is more dear minadvar manadrashim minaksav than the written law. So it's not about the length, it's about, because definitely more things are oral. Then Rav Yehuda ben Pazi says that I wrote down rebuke and you ignored it, ayin sham. And then finally, Rav Avin says, "Ilule kasavti la rubi tarasi." If I would have just written down most of my Torah, which is the Torah Shel Peah part, then lo kamo, would you not kamo zar nechshavnu? You'd be like any other nation. Any other nation writes their books, it says, and has their parchments, and everybody could study that. But you, the Jewish people, we need a Masorah. We need it passed down from Rebbe to Talmud. Now, a lot of the Mefarshim explain that things could not be said all in words because words cheapen them, and words make it that there's not enough to be explained, but they're a good foundation for the basic ideas. So therefore, with Torah Shel Peah, a very important thing of Torah Shel Peah is the tradition, and this is what this is a very famous Yerushalmi in Peah Daf Chaf Beis in the Ozvada print. I think it's Daf Yud Beis and Yud Gimel in the Vilna print. But anyway, so the idea is that this literally separates us from the Goyim and makes us very, very unique in that way. And Rav Chagai, in the name of Rav Shmuel Bar Nachman, says the same idea that al pi dvarim ha'elek karati it chabris Israel through with Torah Shel Peah al pi dvarim ha'elek. That's where Hashem has a covenant with us. And Rav Yochanan and Rav Yehuda say similar pshat. I'm not going to read the actual Gemara. You could do that yourself. But ayin sham, where basically they say that you have to keep Torah Shel Sav and Torah Shel Peah. And again, this is a huge part of what we do. Even though we have 2,711 pages of the Bavli and about 1,550, well, in the Vilna print, and probably somewhere in the mid 2000s as well for the Ozvada print, but nonetheless, the Iker Torah is the Torah that's passed from generation to generation. This is an encyclopedia of Jewish knowledge, if you could call it that, kaviyachol. But really, the derivative that we learn the most and how we apply it and how we use it, like the Aruch HaShulchan quotes often, Rabbeinu Bali Shulchan Aruch. All the rabbis that put in their effort into creating the Shulchan Aruch is a large part of how halacha comes out, but also the word of mouth and the Masorah that goes from generation to generation, from Rabbeim to Talmidim, that literally tells us how how to live our lives. Moshe Kibbutz Torah MiSinai, Masr Yeshua, Shul Zakadim, Zakadim Levium, etc., 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 and we are so to be part of that.